Hello and welcome to Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. As you can see, we are in another new location and I don't know what to expect. So let's just see how far we can get with this one. So as you know, we are now on day number 46 of this 101 day challenge. We have discussed basically 6 different ideas. 5 of those ideas were wrapped up into checklists. And then, of course, there are the endeavor elements. All right, there we go. So it looks like when somebody walks past, then there's going to be, the light will automatically turn on. That's probably going to happen a couple of times. So if you have problems with flickering lights, please be aware of this. All right, so we're talking about state impact, and yesterday I went through all of the other checklists, and I just described how you will at some point need to be making some decisions. And each of the checklists that we previously discussed give you the opportunity to make decisions about a variety of different themes. Now, the state impact checklist is to help you to evaluate courses of action. All right, so the first step in evaluating a course of action, of course, is to frame the context. Frame the context, all right? So, like if somebody asks your advice, they say, hey, I got this big decision I got to make, and I don't know what to do. What's the first thing you're going to ask? You're going to say, like, what's going on? Like, tell me where do these scenarios occur? Because basically when somebody says, I need to make a decision, they're going to tell you, like, I can either do this or I can do that, all right? So now, and when we evaluate courses of action, of course, we can either do this or we can do that. But the question is, like, the whole decision is based on where these scenarios occur. What are the relevant factors that will influence these scenarios? All right, so for example, I remember a couple of times we discussed hiring a salesperson. And in the book Create Crucial Insight by Dr. Thomas Buchholz, he says that planning, for example, the scenario of hiring a salesperson would be based on planning and budgeting, requiring that a new hire be on board by the end of the current fiscal year. All right, so if planning and budgeting require that these new salespeople are on board before the end of the current fiscal year, then this is like, okay, so we need to make the decision now. There are other parts of our business which require that this decision be made. So this is a time restraint. All right, maybe you want to describe the function that the company needs to accomplish. All right, so what is the function? What is something that you want to do? All right, so this is almost like what do you want to be able to do? What are the influences on those things? Like, how else can I explain this? What's the situation? What's going on? All right, frame the context. So now the question is that I've often thought about is, like, what's the difference between identifying the endeavor, saying what is my endeavor, and then saying, like, and then framing the context. So I don't know, like maybe framing the endeavor. All right, so like, as I've mentioned a number of times, I want to provide content to help people overcome emotional, intellectual, and organizational barriers so that they can achieve better results. Now, all right, so then what are the scenarios? Like, where do these scenarios occur? Where are these people? So I could say, okay, so basically people are working in businesses and they are working in management positions, and possibly they're not that experienced in these management positions, and they're looking for somebody who can give them some frameworks, a variety of different framework possibilities for how to think about a variety of different problems. Now, obviously, when we're talking about emotional hurdles, we're talking about when people have made decisions in the past and later with some kind of negative experience attached to it. And so now they're like afraid to move forward. They don't want to be wrong. They're not sure where to go. They're avoiding certain types of decisions based on previous emotional decisions. Now, when we're talking about intellectual barriers, then of course we're talking about like people that just lack the experience. I'm not really sure what to do. I don't really know how to think about this. And so, of course, I offer these checklists created by Dr. Thomas Buchholz in order to start to give you some framework and also to have someone that you can talk to. Somebody with a few gray hairs. So, and a polite smile. So, and then of course there's organizational issues. So like, how do I organize that information? So sometimes when people are talking to me, I will type, and everything that they say I'm typing in, and I'm starting to put things into, on a Google Doc that we can both look at the same time. They can type if they want. But I type pretty fast. I took piano lessons when I was growing up, and I can keep up with people pretty good. And then, so that gives them the opportunity to start to organize their thoughts. And like, if they're able to organize their thoughts better, and you give them some structure to think through problems, and also you're there to support them through experiences that they've had in the past, which were negative, and so maybe it's difficult for them to think or talk about certain topics, then that's so as you can see, this is the context of the experiences that I have with people. Like if you think about like a football game, like how do you know which play to run? So obviously you're gonna like do some research. You're gonna look at the defense on the other team. You're gonna you understand the size of the field. You have certain options. You can throw, you can pass, or the quarterback can run. And then so what are we gonna do? And how can we exploit the weaknesses? How can we work through? How can we create a pattern of ideas so that we can march down the field in a football game? And it's the same with business. So who are the competitors, and what is the market? What's happening in the market? What does our product look like? And what are the clients that we can work with? And what are ways that we can work with them? What kind of information do we need to know? So what does it sound like? So it sounds a lot like the first step of this is connected to two parts of the endeavor elements. So the first part is like shape potential, the context. Like if you really want to frame the context, then tell me the resources, all right? So I need to have a very clear idea of what resources are available. And then I also want to know who is available, what kind of interactions do we have available. And then, of course, we want to know the motivation of these people. What are the purposes that they work towards? Okay, so this is the shape potential. This is the large context. And then you go to the micro context. So that's when you move from shape potential up to form agendas. So then, of course, now we are talking about assumptions. And there was like 6, 7 videos that we went through the steps of forming assumptions so that you can make better decisions. But do you ever actually make a decision in the state assumptions checklist? All right, so the whole point of state assumptions was to help you to form and develop your assumptions, to make sure that your information that you have meet the needs for information. And then once the information that you need, once you have enough information, then this is where now I can frame the context. All right, so that is basically the idea of framing the context. This has been Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates.